Day 5 got started in the hostel in Chicago. I stayed in last night. I felt like yesterday I saw most of what I wanted to see in downtown Chicago, so I started by heading north up to Evanston, which is where Northwestern University is, and checking out the town and the school. I really like Northwestern. The school's right on the lake. Has a view of Chicago. So then after leaving there, I started my way down towards Hyde Park, which is a neighborhood like south of downtown Chicago, which is actually where Obama's house is, where the Robie house of Lloyd Wright building is, and where the University of Chicago is. So I'm going to go check that out and then keep on rolling towards Indiana National Park. So right in the middle of the University of Chicago campus is the Robie house, and the Robie house was designed by Lloyd Wright, and it is kind of the paradigmatic example of a prairie house, and that was one of Lloyd Wright's signature styles. Lloyd Wright was widely considered the best American architect, and I think on top of that, the most American architect, and that's probably because he very much tried to create an architecture indigenous to wherever he was building the structure. He called that his organic architecture. Organic architecture describes Lloyd Wright's prairie houses, but it also probably finds its clearest expression in Falling Water, which is possibly Lloyd Wright's most famous house, and that's a home in Pennsylvania that's quite literally built into a waterfall. It kind of molds itself around that and creates the experience of the waterfall within the house, and so I'll include a picture of that as well to kind of explain what I mean when I talk about this organic architecture that's tied into the land. And that sort of contrasts with a lot of other architects that were working around his time and the people he might contend with, other best American architects, like Mies van der Rohe, who I'd mentioned in talking about the Chicago school. He was a modernist, and so modern architecture could pretty much be picked up from wherever it was, transplanted anywhere else in the world, and it would be similarly successful or unsuccessful. It really had no, the location, the surrounding environment had no impact on on the architecture by and large. So they often called it the international style, partly for that reason. And so Lloyd Wright's was different in that he was responding to the specific environment that his house or his building was situated in. So I bring up this whole discussion just to provide context for the observation that the prairie style, of which the Robie house was the most prominent example, or is the most prominent example, was really the first American style of architecture. And I think it's notable and interesting that this first American style of architecture was sort of defined by tying the building to the land, by integrating and representing the environment and the land around it. I'll finally show a couple pictures of the Robie house. Notice the natural colors that Lloyd Wright uses and the long eaves extending out from the house that emphasize the building's horizontality. So after leaving the Robie house and saying goodbye to Chicago, I went back down along Lake Michigan to the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore and did another hike. Turned out to be the absolute worst. Not only is it kind of overgrown, I had to cross some like marshy areas, and they have this mat laid down that I thought was a bridge basically, but no, it just floats on top of the water. When you step on it, the water comes in, covers the bridge and sinks your feet underwater, and so my feet got totally soaked, which sucks because I'm also camping tonight, so I won't have a shower. So I'm gonna try going the other way around this loop and see if it's any better, see if we can see some dunes. If not, I'm getting out of here. Leaving Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, I tried to do one more hike, but when I pulled up, there was a National Park Service stand, and normally they take military IDs for admission, but apparently it was a expanded amenities fee, not a normal admission charge, so my military ID didn't work, and I was going to pay $6 for another hike when I had to get to the camping site before dark. So headed out of Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, would generally not recommend. Not really what I expected. I thought it was going to be like actual sand dunes. Instead, it's just like really old like sand deposits from when Lake Michigan was higher, that's now overgrown with, you know, forests and trees and brushes and whatever. So kind of disappointing, but now I'm going to take some back roads up along the side of Lake Michigan to Huron, Manistee National Forest, something like that. And I'm going to pitch a tent there tonight and just stay there. It's free to just, if you're not staying on a actual campground, it's free to just pitch a tent anywhere. So I'm just gonna find some spot, either hike a little bit to one or just pull over and set up a tent next to my car and stay there and get going early in the morning. Tomorrow I'm going to Sleeping Bear Dunes.